Hello, I'm Katie from Cookery Doodle Doo and happy Pancake Day. So I want to share a recipe with you because my kids and I love pancakes, but sometimes it can get a bit much when I'm trying to cook for two hungry children, standing at the stove kind of flipping all those individual pancakes. So I've come up with a recipe where you can cook it all in one pan and just bake it in the oven. So it's a really simple, straightforward pancake batter, but without all the faff of cooking individual ones basically. So we're going to top ours with berries today. So here on this plate I've got 150 grams of mixed berries. So I've got some strawberries that I've just sliced in half, I've got some blueberries and I've got some raspberries which I'm just going to leave whole. You can change the toppings as much as you want, so if you want to do something like banana and chocolate chip or some cherries, maybe with some flaked almonds, something like that, that's absolutely fine. So you can change the toppings as you want to, but we're going to make a baked berry pancake today. So as well as the berries or whatever toppings you want to use, I've got a bowl here with 125 grams of self-raising flour. I've got some baking powder. I'm just going to use half a teaspoon. I know it's self-raising flour, but that will just give it an extra little lift. If you don't have any baking powder, then don't worry too much because the flour will puff up anyway. I've got 40 grams of caster sugar here. I've got a whisk I'm going to use to bring it all together. I've got a tablespoon or 15 grams of melted butter. I've got an egg. And I've got some milk. We're going to use 125 grams of that. As well as that, I've got some vanilla here, which we're going to use half a teaspoon of. This is optional. You could add some cinnamon instead or as well as this, or you could just leave it out altogether. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so I'm just going to start by preparing the pan I'm going to use. This is an oven-proof frying pan. You can see it's got a metal handle, so this is absolutely fine to go into the oven. And it's about the size that I want, which is 20 centimetres across. If you haven't got a frying pan that goes in the oven, that's absolutely fine. You can just use a baking dish or anything that's about the right size. So anything that's round about 20 centimetres, which as you can see is kind of the wide span of an adult hand, just if you don't have anything to measure it to hand. I'm just going to prepare that by using a bit of extra butter. I've just got a bit of kitchen paper here. Obviously I've got my apron on and I've washed my hands, so we always do that before we start cooking. I'm just going to add bit of butter into this pan, and I'm going to just use the kitchen roll just to grease the pan all the way around, and that will just stop the pancake from sticking when it goes into the pan in the oven. So there we go, my butter's quite soft, so that's relatively easy to do. Obviously if the one you're using is silicone, you don't need to do that. Okay, so that's that prepped and ready to go. So turning our attention to the flour here, I'm just going to add, as I said, half a teaspoon of baking powder. Just level that off. Okay, so that goes in along with our 40 grams of caster sugar. And I'm just going to use my whisk just to mix them together a little bit. There we go. Right then, and then into the bowl that my sugar was in, I'm just going to crack my egg. So those of you who cook with me regularly will know that we do this in two stages. So if you've got children with you, this is just a really good way to teach them how to crack an egg. So the first stage is to tap and listen, and you'll hear the hole in the shell appear. Okay, so as soon as the sound changes, you need to stop tapping and find the hole, give it a little thumbs up, kiss your thumbs together and put them into that hole, and then as soon as they're into the hole together, they pull apart from each other, bringing the shell with them. There we go, and hopefully what you should have is an egg in the bowl with no shell at all. If you do have any shell, then obviously just fish it out. And then I'm just going to use a fork to just whisk the egg together, just until the two different colours of egg are all the same colour. There we go. Right, so bringing the flour back, I'm going to tip my egg right in, and I'm going to tip in my melted butter as well. That can just go straight in. And then I'm just going to grab my scales for the milk. Okay, so we need 125 millilitres of milk, which is the same weight as we had of the flour. If you need to measure milk, water, anything like that, 125 millilitres is the same 125 grams. So that can just go straight in. If you're not confident doing that, then obviously do wait into a bowl or a jug or something first, if you're worried you might slosh too much in. Because it's pretty hard to get out again once you've got it in there. Right, so I'm just going to use my whisk. I'm just literally just going to bring it all together. If you don't have a whisk, you can absolutely just use a wooden spoon or a fork or something. It might just take a little bit longer. As you can see, that comes together very quickly and easily. And then I'm just going to add my flavour. So I've chosen to use vanilla. I can obviously just use the ½ teaspoon measure that I used with the baking powder, but if you've got children cooking with you, this is quite a fun way because they all recognise this. Obviously it's a syringe that we use for medicine normally, but it's a really, really good way to measure just ½ teaspoon of something. So I'm just going to pop that into the vanilla and suck up my ½ teaspoon there. And then obviously we can just squirt it straight in. You need to be careful, children, don't push it too fast though, just so it doesn't squirt up in their eyes. So there we go, that goes in like that. And we'll just give that one last mix. There we go. And then all we do with that is pour it straight into our prepared pan or baking dish. And the whisk will just help you get it the bits and bobs that's left behind. Give it a really good scrape. And you can see it's quite a thick batter, but not so thick that it just kind of sits there. It will just level itself out. But you can just give it a little wobble just to help it. And then all we're going to do now is decorate it with our chosen toppings. I suggest you start with the bigger ones first because the smaller ones are easier to kind of fit in the gaps. You can make this as pretty and organised as you like, or you can just be a bit more random like I am. But there we go. I'm just going to pop these toppings on. So there's the strawberries and the raspberries going on, and then obviously these blueberries can just fit in the little gaps then. And this is going to go into a preheated oven at 180 degrees for about 20 minutes. It should be puffed up and golden, and when you press it, it should feel kind of firm and springy in the middle. If you really want to check, you can poke a cutlery knife or a fork or a skewer or something like that in the middle and just check there's no sign of any wet batter. You want it to be cooked all the way through. And there we go. Make sure everything's got a nice bit of topping on it. And there we go. So that's going to go in the oven now for 20 minutes, and I'll show you what it looks like when it comes out. Okay, so the oven timer's just gone off. I've turned off the oven, and let's have a look what we've got in here. Now, don't forget, if you've used a frying pan and you put it down, don't forget the handle will be hot because obviously you're not used to that. So make sure you've got your oven gloves. But here we are. So we've got our pancake. It's all puffed up. It's nice and firm, so I can tell that's cooked. So that's going to be absolutely delicious. So I would suggest you let it set in the pan for a couple of minutes, and then just run a cutlery knife around the edge just to loosen the sides, and then you can turn that out and slice it. Or obviously, if you're not too worried about damaging your pan, be careful and you can just cut it in your pan and serve it from there. So there we go. Happy Pancake Day. Really hope you enjoy it.